Went underwater when the quieter boat or smaller boat appeared. First time I come on here with my bicycle, but I turned it off and walked because it does say no motorized vehicles. Up there it was too loud, man. The kids, a bunch of kids, and they kept having to repeat no, and the kids kind of tested them a little bit and should not go where there's no railing on the other side there. I just gotta say, teaching life skills is more than just saying no, more or less at the right time, and being close enough that if it's not listened to, you can intervene. It's more than that. But so it was getting a bit loud, the screaming voices that are made normal even in daycares, where it's a really loud screeching yell that is playful, but that is not mindful of even the damage it could do to the person doing it. So yeah, for me, I had shut that down fairly early. I said, oh, I want you to have fun, but that kind of screaming is not okay. That's the kind of screaming if there's a wolf chasing you or something, right? Anyways, even Sam Harris, I'm hearing today, is starting to realize that it's not about Trump as much as what he says is maybe 30% of really devoted cult members of Trump who may never, even when things backfire and harms them, admit the foolishness of supporting and bringing into power somebody like that, right? So again, Trump is just a generic product of his time, and I think Sam Harris is starting to realize that our species is not well. I mean, he's not nowhere near where I am, to the point that I years ago already had a grand unification theory that explains this, and he's still in the conversations of economics. He's not into the psychology or the sociology of it. And he's one of the more objective, I would say. And on certain podcasts, his language is not great when he's invited there, although he might have posted it or been talking to somebody on his own. So in a way, that's not that evolved. I mean, he has so many words to express emotions that he tries to confuse more and more viewers with the swearing words that have become the norm. I won't go there. I won't tell my viewers, please subscribe, and if you like this kind of honesty or whatever, think of supporting Patreon or notification or like button, because again, I don't want to contradict myself by domesticating people when I'm against domestication, right? If people want to make up their minds that they want to subscribe, they do. I mean, and I don't even, if somebody asks, I hesitate to talk about my YouTube channel when I'm in a, let's say, philosophical conversation, because, well, that's somebody I've met in person. I don't necessarily want them to become a follower if they live in the neighborhood I do, because Homo sapiens aren't very popular among the Yomo communion. So I say, I recommend you just stick to my singing videos, maybe. I say it describes the truth about the human condition and talks about my life living among the norm. And everybody always thinks they're outside of the norm when I say that, so that's my protection, their own ignorance about their own domestication. But anyways, what I wanted to say is that you could really see with the kind of math that is manipulative, that is being used to say countries have been taking advantage of the USA. And if you kind of been listening to most of the news channels like CBC, have had many times they've explained it, what it means, a trade deficit. Or so what is he going to say? We said we need to buy less things and sell more things. But really, even if it was just that, you can still pick up other inconsistencies in what he's doing. He's not just applying that as if it was a form of abuse, and he's not admitting that he's the one that signed off on the last renegotiation of the North American agreements. So this kind of manipulative math that Carl Sagan says, not Carl Sagan, David Suzuki said a long time ago, economics is a form of mental illness. I've been saying it I've been calling it a manipulative math. You know, like Sam Harris is not there yet, right? Most scientists, they still have those conversations. They're not talking about what's really happening. I mean, when the tariffs first came, I said it's not about tariffs today. This is what's happening with Greenpeace, fighting for our right to have a voice and share what we say, and all the attacks against everybody else that's outside of the norm or that criticizes the opinions or the ideologies of others. And nobody's talking about things like, 1984, because really that's the sociology of it is, people might say, oh, that's science fiction. No, it's already started a while ago. And again, even things like 1984, there's no big intelligence guiding it, okay? It's just an intellectual laziness. It's just a loss of sentience that brings to that. It's not like there's these elites who are smarter than others. Trump is not smarter, and if Trump ends up doing what the Greens can't even talk about right now, even the Greens aren't talking about green, is if it ends up that there's less trade and less consumption and less mining and less oil burning, well, it's good for the planet. But then the cults of Trump will say that was his plan all along. He's really green or pro the environment. He made it not as bad for our kids. Of course, people that really, really suffer won't be able to say that. So I'm so glad that he screwed up my life, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't make the sacrifices myself for my own kids. I don't think that people are going to say that. But that's something that might come out of it. But to actually think that Trump has an intelligence related to systems thinking, and even related to the mental illness of economics, where things are so complex when they're interconnected with different countries and ethnicities and cultures that see economics and that use it and that have their own ideas of a norm of what it is, that are different, right? That there's nobody that can project this, and it's so easy to tell in the conversations. And it's not like he's avoiding smart questions. He's not even being asked smart questions. Neither are most people that, let's say, the CBC invites. And if I was in a conversation with Mark Carney, who is much better than Trump at not just doing what is good for his own culture if he chose to just be pro-Canada, but he would also be able to incorporate more of the other nations. So in the long term, it would still be pro-Canada, not just short term. So the thing is, guys, man, it's Earth Day month. Things have been worse. We've been doing records of horrible heat, and people just think about, should I buy a car now or not? And car companies and fossil fuel companies have done us so much wrong. I could do a vlog about different experiences of me buying cars in the past, and people won't care because they think, oh, should I myself get a car now or not? And people think, oh, losing a job or whatever in the car industry is bad. Like, we're not thinking a lot of the cities in North America were going to be well built until the automobile industries and fossil fuel industries screwed up and put you in traffic, and now you've got even more smog and for you and your kids, breathing diseases, right? Abnormalities and struggles. So now we should be talking about, hey, let's transfer into more public transit, into trains, into cycling, into, getting ourselves healthier, out of consumption, and also out of the medical system a lot. We shouldn't just brag that a few U.S. doctors are going to come here. They might be total jerks. And, they're being selfish in coming here probably, right? And we don't have universal health care. I explained it's an incongruence that people have conversations about all the evidence that we don't, and then they brag that we do, just to make ourselves look better than another country. We're tiny bit better in some of the ways. It's a small degree, so we're very close to the underdeveloped social creature country of the USA. And stop saying America. Stop. How many times do I have to make that argument? You are defeating yourselves when you are saying this. You're giving them power. Stop saying that. Carney, stop saying America. Say the United States. There's no other country, I don't think so, that has United States as part of their name. Just say that. America is a continent. You don't stop saying that. You're just giving them monopoly over everything by saying that. And they feel like they own things and they're entitled. Like I traveled around the world a while ago, and I tell you, I met a lot of people from the States, Americans, who were wearing Canadian shirts, to not be in trouble. The thing is, they still have their attitudes a little bit. But the thing is now we have politicians that go to other countries uninvited to preach their cultish rhetoric, and they're not pretending to be something else. It's really like, this is who we are, and we have confused you so much. This is a good point Sam Harris makes. He said it's not just about lying or right or wrong. It's about putting so much disinformation out there, misinformation, whatever you want to call it. People have to define it different ways and say it when they use it. Is now people just give up on the truth. That means it's a bigger disconnection with reality. So I've been saying a long time, the supernatural disconnects us from reality, religions, and so does the magical. And the modern form of the magical paradigm is the monetary paradigm. It's the concept of money. It's the concept of ownership or assets that gives power to people over others. Power that only exists if dumb people get into this cult of the magical. And now it's so bad that people just disconnect from reality because of this cult. They just want to survive as they live in this cult, one day at a time, and hopefully they'll have enough money to feed their families. So that's what's evil, and that's what's counter the evolution of our species. That's what made us bounce off the ceiling instead of going to the next step of maybe adolescence as a species. And now we bounce back down, and we're devolving ourselves with the help of all the HSD pathologies that not one psychiatrist in the world will ever, during their entire career, ever come close to explain really the rise in not just various forms of mental illness and addictions, but also the decrease, if there's enough scientists that are brave enough to do this, the decrease in various forms of intelligence that are measurable in people all around the world. And I have to live through this with ways that I can help that I'm not allowed to help with. So again, it's not easy being an Homo sapien among the Homo community. But at least there's the natural world, and maybe a seal would show his head at some point during this video, or an eagle. But really, it's really infected by the people primates I share DNA with, the natural world. And therefore, there's a limit of how much I can enjoy it without getting into this monetary paradigm, which I won't because I'm human.